Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Piper Report. So I'm kind of decongested right now, so I'm sorry if my nose sounds plugged because it is plugged. But yeah, let's go on. So Chucky Schumer is at it again with his just complete idiotic mentality. Now, for those who actually subscribe to me and watch my videos, you know that I really don't try to insult people that often. I may insult their opinions, I may disagree and use humor to, I guess, contradict their opinions, but I don't just flat out insult somebody. I don't really believe in ad hominem attacks. But I have to say that Chuck Schumer is a clown. He is nothing but a clown. He represents a clown. And the man doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, like, ever. I don't think I've ever seen anything logical come out of his mouth. Likewise, I've never seen anything logical out of Maxine Waters' mouth, or Nancy Pelosi's mouth, and, surprisingly, Kamala Harris's mouth. I say surprisingly because many people on the left are trying to nominate her as the 2020 presidential candidate, which, okay, yeah, I mean, she was an AG of California, and I read some stories about her, how she was a poor AG. I have videos on this channel, 3 to be exact, where I dissect some of the stupidest things I've ever heard any politician say, and it dealt with her. Basically, what she thinks judges are supposed to do, and just, I won't go over it because it's long, but, so, Kamala Harris, I mean, these people, they just, a lot of times, they just don't know what the hell they're talking about half the time. But Chuck Schumer, he's at a whole new level, because he does it with such a conceited personality. Like, he knows he is right. Therefore, everything he is preaching is practically gospel. We should listen to him because this isn't fair. What Trump's doing is bad. It's just, come on, Chucky. Come on, dude. Stop playing partisan politics for one time in your life and actually think about what you say before you say it. Decide to actually work with people from across the aisle. In order for this country to actually succeed and grow, you have to work with those you disagree with. You have to work with those that have opposing ideologies with regard to your own. It's not insane to think so. It's not wrong to want to achieve that. So, it's important to unify, Chucky. It's important to unify. You don't preach like you are better than everybody else, because you're not. You are not. We're all humans. We're all Americans, for the most part. I guess whoever watches this video overseas, we're all people. Let's go back to that. We all have humanity in us. It's not us to dictate which life has more inherent worth. Anyways, Chuck Schumer asked Trump to disband voter fraud commission after Charlottesville violence. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling on President Trump to close down his voter fraud commission in the aftermath of violence in Charlottesville, Virginia, and instead said the government should work to end the assault on voting rights. Now, if I was a hardcore conspiracy theorist, I would say this kind of comment alludes to the possibility that the Charlottesville riot was actually a false flag, purposefully created by those who wanted to see some type of reactionary outrage by those on the right in order to actually harm race relations and right and left wing political relations with each other. If I was a big conspiracy theorist, I could probably say that's what happened. It wouldn't surprise me. That being said, it doesn't surprise me, though, that when you put two opposing groups together, like Antifa and a white supremacist rally, who practically hate each other, and you expect that they're going to be doing nothing but saying peaceful lines toward each other, and then sadly you are mistaken, and you are living in a fantasy world. I saw Ben Shapiro on, I think CNN, or maybe it was Fox, I can't remember. He did an interview, and this black woman, she was trying to defend the actions of Antifa. She was saying things like, yeah, but Antifa stands for anti-fascist, so that means that they are against fascism. What they're trying to do is they're trying to preach about the importance of free speech, of a free press, right to assembly. And of course, Ben just kind of decimated her because no, Antifa isn't like that. Antifa actually is the opposite of that. Antifa utilizes fascist tactics to achieve their desires. For instance, they don't want to hear Milo speak, or they want to hear Ben Shapiro speak. So what do? They decide to neglect their First Amendment right of speaking to those. Because even though people in Antifa may not want to hear what Ben or Milo say, there are others who do want to hear what they say. And you're not just blocking Milo and Ben from speaking, you are blocking all the people from hearing the speeches. That is important. That is an important distinction that must be made. That you're not just harming Ben and Milo in their money and their shows and their, classes or whatever what have you. You're actually hurting people that want to see these people. And a lot of them, especially on Ben Shapiro's rallies and his campus visits, they don't agree with him. But they're there anyways. Some are there just to protest, but others are there to actually receive a different opinion. To receive an opinion that doesn't conform with their own. And that is important. That is very important because that is the free flow of ideas. Ideas of opposing viewpoints that are able to be mixed together, create a hodgepodge, if you will. And it doesn't matter if they contradict each other, as long as somebody is hearing two sides of a story. That's actually how we move on in this country, how we progress in this country, and how we can actually close the gap between the left and the right, politically speaking. But I digress. So here's what Chucky said. What troubles so many Americans every bit as much as the president's shocking response to this national tragedy is the methodical and pernicious way, okay, pernicious means like evil way, the methodical and evil way in which his administration is promoting discrimination, both subtle and not so subtle, in its policies and actions, especially when it comes to undermining the universal right of every American to vote, Schumer said in a post on Medium, referring to Trump's Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. Okay, come on, Chucky. First off, pernicious way, methodical pernicious way, yes, because Trump is implementing racist legislation. Just because you disagree with the legislation that is happening, just because you disagree with the Republicans in the majority and Trump in the office, you disagree how they are leading the country, that doesn't mean it's pernicious. It doesn't mean it is insidious. It is evil. It is nefarious. It doesn't mean any of that. What that tells me is that you are a pretentious douchebag because you think that your opinion is right. You think what you think should happen is the only logical reasoning to be followed. It makes you look bad, Chucky. Okay, he is not promoting discrimination and trying to undermine the universal right of every American to vote by setting up a commission. It's the complete opposite. He is protecting Americans the right to vote. Because Americans have that right, not illegal immigrants. Having an illegal immigrant vote when they know they're not supposed to is actually an attack on actual American citizens. Because our citizens of this country fought and died for the right to vote. And you are just easily allowing others who don't belong here to steal that right away from us. And not only that, I didn't hear him complaining when we had Jill Stein demanding recounts in the 3 swing states. I didn't hear anyone complain about that. They were all for it then, because if they could prove some type of election hacking on the voting ballots, then they can sufficiently delegitimize Donald Trump once and for all, and they can kick him out of office. So they don't care now. They didn't care back then. Now all of a sudden they care, though. It just hypocrisy at its finest. And here's the thing. You should be able to vote, but you should be able to prove you're an American citizen. I know people argue that, yeah, but if you're in poverty or you're poor, you can't get an ID. That's bullshit. You can get IDs for anything, practically. You can get ID for anything. It's not hard to get an ID. You should have to prove you're a citizen to vote. That's not discrimination. That's not being prejudiced. That's just common sense. Because if you don't do that, then how do you know people that don't belong in this country or who aren't citizens of this country, how do you know that they aren't abusing that? that they aren't voting. And for those who think that election fraud isn't possible, it is possible. Project Veritas exposed super PACs for Hillary Clinton last year. And they expressed on video how they would take people from different voting booths to vote over and over again more than once. Voter fraud is real. It does happen. It is important to create a commission on it to make sure our elections do have integrity. It's not discrimination. It's not racism. It's just common sense. Many of us found the Election Integrity Commission distasteful when it was first created. Yes, but not when Jill Stein was doing a recount. I remember that. You didn't say anything about that. The president's recent failure to unequivocally condemn bigotry makes it rescission imperative. Unequivocally condemn bigotry. Are they saying that he didn't condemn bigotry in Charlottesville when he said both sides are responsible? You don't think that's condemning bigotry? You wanted him to say what? Only the right was responsible. Only the white supremacists on the fringe right are responsible. Antifa that were there causing violence. Or the mayor telling people to stand down with the cops. No. They're innocent. It was only the right. Yes, Chucky, yes. Schumer said if Trump refuses to disband the Voter Fraud Commission, which he started based on the claim that 3 to 5 million illegal immigrants voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, Congress should attach a provision next month to a piece of must-pass legislation prohibiting the panel from operating. The Voter Fraud Commission has been mired in controversy since its creation in May. The panel's co-chairman, Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, who most people actually thought should have been the DHS director because he actually had an immigration program he wanted to implement, and I was actually surprised. I thought it would be Chris Kobach, not John Kelly, but anyways, I digress. But yeah, he is leading this apparently, so he's going to be strict about it, which is good. We should verify that those who are voting for our American president and our leaders of America should actually be citizens of America. I think that makes sense. He's a leading proponent of stringent voter ID laws and has 4 lawsuits filed against him over Kansas voting laws. My nose is really plugged now. The panel also came under fire after Kobach sent letters to all 50 secretaries of state requesting they provide the Voter Fraud Commission with all publicly available voter roll information. Schumer pressured Republicans who have criticized Trump for his response to the events of Charlottesville to work with Democrats to expand voting rights. That's what's always so ironic. You always hear people in Charlottesville, always people here in Congress on the left, like Schumer and others, that it is up to Republicans to work with the Democrats. It's never up to the Democrats to work with Republicans. Republicans have to acquiesce to what the Democrats want. If they don't acquiesce, then it is because they're trying to spew bigotry. Think about that for a minute. They're trying to spew racism. How pretentious and how presumptuous can you be to assume that your opinion is automatically right? Seriously, how presumptuous can you be that I am right, my party is right? It's up to Republicans to acquiesce to what we want, even though they're in the majority, even though the people have spoken overwhelmingly in their favor. They have to abide by our standards. We need more than just words. We also need action, he said. And I believe that one important way that Congress can begin to heal this painful divide in our country when we return in September is by showing that we can come together to stop the systemic disenfranchisement of American voters. Now, what's going to need to happen, Chucky, is you are going to have to denounce the regressive left. You are going to have to denounce Antifa and the violent sects of Black Lives Matter. The sects that say pigs in a blanket fry 'em like bacon. Antifa that is violating people's constitutional rights, their protected liberties. You need to step up. You need to go the extra mile. People don't have to acquiesce to you. It's up to you to acquiesce to them, or at least try to work with them. I don't think Republicans are asking that much. Like I said, I'm no fan of the congressional Republicans. I like some of them. I don't mind Ted Cruz. I like Mike Lee. I like Rand Paul. But we have to understand that they are the majority for a reason. The people wanted them there. Democrats need to stop being obstructionist. They need to actually want to work with Republicans and try to work with Republicans so we can actually try to grow this country. Try to make this country better for everyone. They want Trump to fail. They want congressional Republicans to fail. Because if they do, they have talking points for their midterms. They have talking points for the next election. You know what? You guys voted for Trump, and now you voted for Republicans in office, and look what they did. They did nothing. Nothing got done except for bigotry and racism. And there we go. You have more talking points to support your campaign. That's why there has to be term limits. People care too much about getting reelected. They care too much about their own partisanship to actually want to work with others, to try to achieve some type of unity, to try to grow the country, to try to progress the country. I guess thank you for listening. If you listen to this whole thing, I know this is a longer video, but I'm kind of getting into the podcast format, if you will. I'd like to do videos that are kind of long sometimes, like 20 minutes or so, just kind of discussing things. So I guess it's kind of a test to see how things go, but thanks for watching, and I'm done.